Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the call.
Dear Supervisor, please be advised that the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors will meet at 7 p.m. on September 25th, 2023 in the County Boardroom. All County Board members' claims are due in the County Clerk's office by noon on September 5th, 2023, so that they can be prepared for Audit Committee approval. Sincerely, Paul Severson, County Clerk.
Roll call.
Bridget Turner.
Here.
Stacy Klein.
Here.
Richard Seisha.
Here.
Lori Severson.
Here.
Andy Todd. Here. Emery Palmer.
Here.
Kevin Adams.
Here.
Dick Miller. Here. David Orsh.
Here.
John Austin.
Here.
Don Waldera.
Here.
Robert Becker.
Here.
Dan Schreiner.
Here.
Kellen Nelson.
He's in a meeting temporarily. He'll be here shortly.
David Larson.
Here.
Jeannie Nutter. Ron Johnson.
Here.
15 and 2 at this point.
Okay. Open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting and notification. We have 11-item agenda. The only
Amended.
amended agenda. The only thing I want to do is move domestic violence presentation up by Sally Miller, because some people came a long ways for this, so I'm going to put that first on the agenda before we even do the audit deal.
And
So
there Kellen just got
if that's okay, when somebody want to make a motion to approve
Motion to
that?
approve the amended agenda. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it's carried. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve August 23 minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Bridget, seconded by Ms. Waldera. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You gotta wait for him.
Oh, you didn't oppose. We got you as an aye. Okay. We're in good shape. Appearances. We're gonna start with item B, domestic violence presentation with Sally Miller, a former board member, and reintroduce yourself.
Is this thing on?
No.
You gotta push
There
that.
you go. There it is.
I'm Sally Miller. I am an outreach advocate working with New Horizons Shelter and Outreach Center here in Trempealeau County in Whitehall. Over here are some of my coworkers, and they came up here all the way up here so that we could do a bit of a presentation. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this is our kickoff for the event. I'm gonna speak a little bit, and then our executive director Ann Kapoff is gonna speak, and then Judge Radke is gonna tell you kind of what he sees on the bench. So, you've got a bag in front of you. It has some treats. It has a dipped Oreo cookie, so feel free to get into that. It also has a purple ribbon. If you are so inclined, please put it on. Why do we wear purple? That little thing on front tells you why we wear purple. But I want to tell you a story. When I was in first grade, my sister married a man who took her from our northern Illinois town all the way down to Florida. She didn't have a phone. She didn't have a car. He beat her all the time. She got pregnant, and when she was 6 months pregnant, he beat her so badly, she ended up in the hospital. And she gave birth prematurely to a little boy. A nurse came into the room one night and looked at her and said, "Do you want to leave him?" And my sister said, "I can't. Every time I try, he finds me. He's going to go to my house. He says he's going to kill my little sister." And so she stayed. And an hour later, the woman came in and said, "If I could find a way to help you be safe, would you leave?" And she said, "If I could." An hour later, her son died. And the next morning, as the nurse came in and brought the box of ashes to her, the nurse said, "Across the street is a car. It has a purple ribbon on the antenna. They will take you someplace safe." For the next week, my sister was driven across the nation till she ended up in far northwestern Montana, where she was able to live a life that was safe. She met the man that she would go on to marry and have 4 children with. They've been married 50 years, and I guess 40-something years. Today is the day that she gave birth 50 years ago to that little boy. We wear purple because it's a color that has always been used by women to show their worth, to show their value, their equality, as they've gone from voting rights to equal rights to the right to be free of abuse, the right to be able to live equally. And so we wear purple to show our support during the month of October, to show our support for victims of abuse, survivors, and those who lost their lives. And when you see a purple ribbon, it is somebody saying that they stand with victims, that they do not tolerate abuse, and they have a zero tolerance for that. And so if you would be willing to wear these purple ribbons that are there, it's a little safety pin, it's not overly complicated, we would appreciate that. And if you could do that during the month of October, that would show victims everywhere that we do not have any tolerance for abuse in this county. Gonna have Ann cap off my boss, the executive director now, and she'll talk and tell you more.
Thanks, Sally. Thank you for moving us on up the agenda. It's we're driving. I have some city slickers that live in La Crosse. I live in a rural community, but you know they're kind of anxious on those roads getting home. So it's great to be moved on up. Thanks for that. So domestic violence knows no ends. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can be young, you can be old, you can be working or retired, you can be an attorney, or you can be a cashier at the local food store. Domestic violence, simply explained, is one person wanting and taking the power and control over another person. Some signs and some ways of domestic abuse can be physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience physical abuse sometime in their life. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men, so it does happen to men also. Unfortunately, women in rural areas report the highest percentage of domestic abuse comparing to urban cities because the effects of it in rural counties are exacerbated by limited access to support services like New Horizons, family connections with people in authority, distance and geographic isolation, transportation barriers, reluctance to report, economic dependence. Annually, our 2 Trempealeau County advocates, Sally and Kendi, provide safety planning, legal advocacy, personal advocacy, housing advocacy, emergency shelter access to our shelter in La Crosse County, or the one that we collaborate with in Eau Claire County, and resources and referrals to approximately 125 individuals in Trempealeau County. Those are the 125 individuals that come forward and say that they have been in an abusive situation. There are many that never will come forward and say that. Since my time with New Horizons, I've done some research kind of going back in Trempealeau County and La Crosse County, the 2 counties where we're located, and checking out how many homicides have been committed because of domestic violence. In Trempealeau County, since 1989, there have been 6 homicides caused by perpetrators, and these are the abusers of the victims who died. And those perpetrators at one time, right, the victims said they loved them, they loved each other. So that's just how much, what domestic abuse can come to, right? Homicide is the last act of that power and control. It's that final power and control over that the perpetrator has over their victim. And as Sally said, you know, please wear, there's also a pin in here that says end the silence. Wear that throughout the month of October too. That would be great, because we really need everybody in the county, friends, family, to speak up and help our 2 advocates located here and join us, who we help from La Crosse County as much as we can, but we all have to work together to stop the violence and end the silence. Thank you.
Well, Judge Radke still.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Radke. I'm the judge here in Trempealeau County. I don't recognize a lot of faces, but there's a couple new ones here. Sally asked me to come today, and I'll be very brief, but really to show numbers. What is in the court system? A lot of the domestic violence cases come through the court system, and there's a variety of ways that we see domestic abuse issues in the court system. One would be in a civil case, an injunction, or we call a restraining order based on domestic abuse. We oftentimes see issues of domestic abuse in family matters, whether it's a support custody placement or divorce action. And then we see them in the criminal cases. And so I have some statistics here from just for the criminal numbers from 2018 to 2022 to just give an idea of what kind of numbers. And I'm just going to provide some statistics here for felonies and for misdemeanors. And when I say felonies, a felony is, I think most people know what a felony is. But a felony means you could go to prison for that. Misdemeanor means at maximum you could go to 1 year in jail, and so a felony is a higher level offense than a misdemeanor offense. For the felony offenses, our typical domestic abuse case that's tied to a felony offense would be a strangulation and suffocation case. And for misdemeanor cases, the common type I would see would be a disorderly conduct or a misdemeanor battery type case with a domestic abuse. And so I ran some numbers, like I said, that have on a case it'll have what's called a domestic violence incident modifier. And that when the DA's office charges these cases, if they believe it's a domestic abuse related incident, they'll add that to the offense, and there's some potential fees. There's also some cumulative impact in the sense if you have multiple domestic abuse convictions, it can result in some higher penalties later on. And what I mean by domestic violence, there's a lot of different or domestic abuse, I should say. There's a lot of different definitions of what that means depending in the law, depending on what case type it is. But the modifier looks at really, is it an offense that you live with somebody, whether it's a significant other or even a roommate or a spouse, or if there's that connection there. That's what that tied with the offense would make it a domestic abuse enhancer. And so the numbers that I see from 2018 to 2022, for felonies, it's roughly about 10% of our cases we see are cases that have domestic abuse tied to it. And then for our misdemeanor cases, that number kind of changed. In 2018, it was roughly 17% of the cases for misdemeanors were domestic abuse incidents. And then it went to the next year, roughly 18%. I'm rounding up slightly. The next year, 2020, was 19%. 2021 was about 29%. And then in 2022 was roughly 27% of all the cases that are filed as misdemeanors had a domestic abuse incident modifier to it. And so it kind of gives you an idea, looking at the case types as a whole, between drugs and a variety of other case types within the felonies and misdemeanors, how many of those are domestic abuse incidents as well. And I hope that gives you all kind of an idea of what we see in the county here, what's happening in the county. Thanks.
Have any questions at all?
I'm just curious, that's quite an uptick in those associated with misdemeanors in 2021 and 22. Do you have numbers if we're on a similar trend this year, if things are coming back down?
I do not have any statistics about 2023.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is there a known relationship with COVID and the ramifications of that with people staying home more?
I don't know, but I would just say I'm not a social scientist in the sense of collecting data and running statistics, but my observation would be there seems to be a correlation there between 2021 and as the highest year where we had that. I think maybe your question could be better directed maybe to the district attorney's office or law enforcement, since they're the ones who are taking in the calls, making the charging decisions of knowing kind of the trend there. But just looking at observationally, 2021 was the highest year that in the last 5 years.
How often do you see either felonies or misdemeanors for domestic abuse against seniors in their home?
Not very often. And there's, I think, in a criminal standpoint, I would say it's not as common as other domestic abuse types cases. There's a restraining order you can get for an adult at risk if there's incidences of abuse happening that can get a restraining order to keep that person away from the person who's being abused. And so I've seen some of those, but I wouldn't say the cases that I have, I think, representing in these numbers here are generally not that case type.
Well, then, along with that, are you seeing a certain age group where this is more prevalent, or socioeconomic status, anything like that?
I think it was well said at the beginning here, young, old, doesn't matter what race you are, doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. It seems to be consistent across the board in the sense of there doesn't seem to be one particular socioeconomic status that where you're seeing more of it. And I think that was well represented earlier.
Are the laws tougher to get a restraining order or easier to get a restraining order on something like this?
Well,
What do you got to prove, I guess, to?
I would say I'm going to try to. Your question is, are you comparing it to criminal cases, you're saying?
I would say I'm comparing it to, I really can't say I'm comparing to anything. Is it easier to get a restraining order on somebody? What kind of proof they get? I mean, is there a lot of proof you got to give? I mean, certain proof you got to give to get a restraining order? Or, I mean, I don't know how else to ask it, but.
Yeah, I'll try to answer it, and you let me know if I answered the way or what you're looking for. So in a criminal case, I think a lot of people have heard that term for the burden of proof there, beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what has to be shown in a criminal case. In a restraining order case, that's technically a civil case, and so the burden of proof is lesser in a civil case, and particularly in a injunction case, a domestic abuse injunction case. The standard actually is that there's reasonable grounds to believe is what I have to apply in court. When I hear evidence, I have to find, if I'm going to grant it, I'd have to find there's reasonable grounds to believe that there's domestic abuse happening. And then there's a specific definition that narrows what is domestic abuse. And it's not all-encompassing in the sense of kind of how it was described earlier, emotional abuse and things like that, or financial abuse. Spiritual abuse, a lot of different sort of elements of that are not encompassed in that definition of the statute. It's more physical contact and more physical violence in the sense of domestic abuse. And so sometimes when people do come in to court for a domestic abuse restraining order, they have in their mind what is domestic abuse of the broader definition, and I have to remind people at the beginning of the hearings and say, this is the standard, this is what the statute says it is, and this is what I have to follow in this type of case. But ultimately, to answer your question, I have to find reasonable grounds to believe that's happening, basically, which is a lot lesser standard than the criminal case.
What's over there? Go ahead.
I'll just say thank you for the work that you do. I know that you're a valuable resource at the hospital that I work at, so thank you. I am interested in whether or not there is any work toward broadening the definition of abuse, given that it's currently only defined as that physical piece, when we know that that is a much bigger problem in other elements as well.
I represent the judicial branch. We don't make the laws.
Are you aware of any?
I'm not.
Or maybe are any of you?
Nothing that we know of at this time.
Yeah, you'd have to speak to your local legislator on that issue. I haven't heard anything, though. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I know I've heard of New Horizon in Trempealeau County. Where is your actual headquarters? Is it here in Whitehall, La Crosse, or? La Crosse.
Yes.
But we do have an office in Trumbull County. We are here in Whitehall.
Satellite office.
Yes.
Any other questions? Not? Paul, you can read the proclamation.
I wanted you to read it.
No, I can't. I can't see. I lost my glasses. These are my wife's readers, and it's embarrassing to wear.
They look good.
Whereas, in just one day across the U.S. and its territories, more than 70,000 victims of domestic violence seek services from domestic violence programs and shelters. That same day, more than 11,000 requests for services, including emergency shelter, housing, transportation, childcare, and legal representation, cannot be provided because programs lack the resources to meet victims' needs. Whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting individuals and society as a whole, here in this community throughout the United States and the world. And whereas racism, homophobia, transphobia, ageism, and discrimination based on physical ability, nationality, and other factors help to perpetuate domestic violence and make finding safety even more difficult for some victims. Whereas the need for safe housing continues to be rated as survivors' most urgent need. And whereas Trempealeau County joins with others across Wisconsin and the nation in supporting victims of domestic violence, as well as local programs, state coalitions, national organizations, and other agencies nationwide who are committed to increasing public awareness of domestic violence and sending a clear message to abusers that domestic violence is not tolerated in Trempealeau County. And whereas domestic violence impacts millions of people each year, but it can be prevented. Preventing domestic violence requires the collective voice and power of individuals, families, institutions, and systems, adding a valuable and powerful component to transforming our communities. Now, therefore, I, John Austin, Trempealeau County Board Chair, hereby do proclaim October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Introduced by County Board Chair John Austin.
Motion made to approve. Motion made and seconded to approve. Just a roll call vote should work with that.
I think you can just do it
Verbal vote.
unless you hear somebody that's
Yep.
going to say no.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That's carried. Let's see, the next one on the agenda is the audit. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Nice job.
Accept.
Thank you for what you do.
Actually, to proclaim.
You want to do the audit now?
She's coming.
Oh, there she is. I was looking up at the screen. Did everybody bring their
Their books with?
books? Cool.
Did you notice it on your agendas? I couldn't make it any more obvious, I don't think.
It ain't on mine.
Huh?
It ain't on mine.
I think you did too.
Oh, where's your first agenda?
You brought some, it don't matter.
No, that's
We didn't
not it.
specify
She
which
just
one.
printed it out.
Oh,
That's because you just got yours today. Quit it. You brought your books.
Yeah.
How can he tell? You don't have glasses on. What is two in red?
Shan, you gotta push the button.
She don't want to. She don't want to. I don't want to. I shouldn't be that intense.
All right. Well, to follow that up.
This one, right?
Yeah, well, both of them. You've got two of them there. Yeah. All right, so it looks like a lot of teal books out there, so that's great. I want to start off by thanking you for having me here tonight to go over the 2022 financial statements and reports that were issued with the audit. My name is Sheann Hediger. I'm with Baker Tilly. And I was here last year for the full board meeting as well, but just a quick update from Baker Tilly that Kim Schultz, our former partner, did retire as of the end of May. And I've taken over as partner in the Eau Claire office as of June 1st. So this year I was the partner on your audit. I've been the manager for many years previous to that. So I'm going to go through this PowerPoint, but you do have the books there in front of you with the full financial statements. We did review these in a little more detail with the Exec Finance Committee earlier this month, so hoping to hit some of the highlights, but feel free to ask questions throughout. So in the end of July, we did issue 2 reports, the financial statements and the reporting and insights letter. So those are the 2 books that you have there in front of you. We will issue a 3rd report at the end of this week on the federal and state awards, the compliance audit. So that is in progress, finishing up this week yet. So starting off with the independent auditor's report, these are the 3 pages of the financial statements that are truly ours as the auditor that we're issuing. And probably the ones you're really looking for ultimately is where we issue our opinion. So for 2022, we did issue an unmodified, or known as a clean opinion, is the highest level that you can receive. So that's always a good result. And that does mean that the financial statements were presented fairly in all material aspects in accordance with the accounting principles. Management's responsibility over the financial statements is the preparation and the fair presentation. Ultimately designing and implementing a system of internal controls, and then evaluating for any conditions or events that raise doubt about the ability to continue as a going concern. We as your auditors need to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. What that means is we are sampling transactions, we're looking at things, areas that we may find of higher risk based on other procedures around those controls that I talked about. We are not looking at every transaction that goes through the county. And ultimately, we issue our opinion on the financial statements. Through our procedures, we exercise professional judgment and maintain our professional skepticism. We gain an understanding of those internal controls and evaluate the appropriateness of estimates and accounting policies, and then ultimately review any of those conditions or events that may raise substantial doubt about the ability to continue as a going concern. The last section of that auditor's report then reports on the other matters, the required supplementary information, and prior year comparative information, and then ultimately the report that's required by the government auditing standards, and that goes along with that single audit report that I mentioned we'll issue later this week. Whoops. Okay, diving into some of the numbers. We've summarized some of the information here. Looking first at the general fund balance. So this is one of the most important metrics within your financial statements. Helps to assess the health of the organization. Having a healthy fund balance allows for adequate cash flows in times when revenues may not be coming in certain points of the year. Helps to flex to respond to any budgetary needs or any unexpected expenditures. So the fund balance can be broken down into these 5 categories listed here. They are in order of liquidity and restriction. The non-spendable category is those that are in non-spendable form. So that $763,000 is made up of long-term tax certificates and tax deeds, and then prepaid expenditures that will be recognized as expenses next year. The restricted is that must be maintained by external groups, so creditors, grantors, laws, regulations. That $50,000 amount is the LATCF grant that was received but not yet spent at the end of 2022. Committed is that which is set aside for a specific purpose that you as the board have acted on in formal action to maintain that balance. That $1.2 million is the work comp reserve. And then assigned is that which is also for a specific purpose but hasn't been set there by formal action with that commitment language. So that about $3 million is made up of the non-lapsing funds at the end of the year, and then any other items from the board action in 2023 that have been designated to be using fund balance for. And then the unassigned is that residual positive fund balance, which is to be used for any other operations. So total fund balance at the end of 2022 was just under 12.8 million. We like to compare that to the general fund expenditures, so about 16.4 million. Looking at the categories of committed, assigned, and unassigned fund balance, those are your available funds that you as the county can direct the use of them. And we compare that to those expenditures from the previous slide. Your available fund balance is about 73% of expenditures for the year. So what that equates to on the graph here is you have almost 9 months of reserves on hand, basically, to fund the subsequent year activities. The GFOA recommends a minimum of 2 months, so you have a nice cushion above that minimum recommendation. Really shows that the county has a healthy fund balance at the end of the year, which is great in still kind of these times of uncertainty. Inflation has calmed a little bit, but prices aren't coming down, and interest rates still kind of all over the board. So it is good to have some of that healthy reserve. All right. Looking at how the general fund performed for 2022, we have the revenues and expenditures there for actual compared to the budget or the planned amounts. So the actual ending net income was about 2.3 million for the year compared to a planned net loss of 3.5 million. A few of the biggest things that created kind of that positive impact on revenues compared to budget. There was about $5.2 million of bond proceeds that were transferred to the highway fund. That debt issuance goes into the general fund, but it was not budgeted for there because you plan to use it for highway operations. So that's a large part of that, about 7.3 million over budget. The other nice positive variance was about 491,000 of sales tax that was over budget for revenues. On the expenditure side, about $1.4 million over budget. Again, that $5.2 million bond proceeds, the transfer of that over to highway is in this expenditures number. And then that is offset as well by about $1.3 million of work comp expenses that were under budget. And that's really just that fluctuates every year based on your claims and activity there. So more details are in that financial statement document on page 58. Breaks down those revenues and expenses actual to budget on a little more detailed level. The cash and investments for all funds, these balances are a point in time. So this was as of on 12/31. These were the cash balances. You can see the unrestricted did go up about $6 million for the year compared to 2021. About 2.9 million of that is the second half of the ARPA funds that the county received in 22 and had not spent at the end of the year. About another 1.6 million was healthcare center cash that went up. We do not do the audit for the healthcare center, but we do bring their numbers into the full county financial statements. So I can't speak much to why their cash was up, but that was a big part of it. The restricted funds, you'd see went from 41 million in 21 to down to 16 million in 22. That's your jail bonds. So the spending of that project as those expenses are made, then that cash balance is going down. And then fiduciary funds is the money held by the county on behalf of others. So none of that cash can be spent for county operations. It's being held for Register of Deeds activities, clerk of courts, sheriff, and such. All right, switching gears a little bit, we'll look at some debt metrics. At the end of 2022, the county had a little over $74 million of outstanding debt. And the change from 21 to 22, there was that $6 million of new debt issued, offset by about $4.4 million of scheduled debt payments that were made. Looking at that compared to the GO debt capacity, so that 148 million, that number is calculated by taking 5% of the county's equalized value, or the property values. You can see that a pretty sizable jump from 21 to 22 really just reflects that the market value, or the taxable value of the county, is increasing. Great from the county's perspective that you have a rising tax base. So ultimately it comes down to about 50% of that debt limit is used. So the county has used 50% of their debt limit. You know, a sizable portion of your outstanding debt is those jail bonds, as you expected, that project. All right, then looking at some of the other funds of the county, so these special revenue funds that are designated for specific purposes, those revenues that come in. Just a few to point out here. The opioid settlement, about halfway down the list, with $142,000, that was new in 2022. I would expect that balance to grow as you continue to receive settlement payments from that national opioid settlement. And then those funds can only be used for the specific purpose through that settlement document. Soil and water management, went from a deficit of $237,000 to now a positive roughly $10,000. That fund is your targeted runoff management projects and some cost sharing. So that fund balance will fluctuate depending on timing of projects and when those reimbursements come from the state. And then the notice of discharge has a $470,000 deficit at year end. That as well is made up of the timing of when the receipt for that grant came from the state. It was beyond the period to be recognized for 22 revenue. So in 2023, that $470,000 reimbursement will come and make that fund balance zero. The debt service fund, steady fund balance as expected. You should be levying what the debt payments are anticipated to be. And then the capital projects fund, again, corresponds with the cash balance of those jail funds being used and making that fund balance come down as that project progresses. Great. And then looking at the highway fund, again, cash and investments, it's a point in time. So at 12/31/22, there was a deficit of cash of about $158,000. That can fluctuate based on timing of receipts coming in, when payments are made, and the tax roll in January makes that cash balance whole again. The working capital, so looking at current assets minus current liabilities. So assets do exceed liabilities by about $2.2 million. And then the net position, the total did decrease from 21 to 22 by about $382,000. That net invested in capital asset number of $7.7 million represents that a large portion of the equity in the highway fund is invested in the equipment to be used for highway operations, and ultimately then did result in a deficit of $752,000 of unrestricted fund balance or net position there. Okay, my last number slide here. Again, looking at debt service of the governmental funds. So this excludes the highway, the healthcare center, or the farm. Looking at expenditures in a comparison of what makes up, or of your debt expenditures compared to the total. So what portion of your expenditures are wrapped up in debt payments, basically. So at the end of 22, you had about 15% of your total non-capital expenditures were debt service. The bond rating agencies recommend a maximum of 20%, so comfortably below that is a good ratio. And this is one factor they would look at, bond ratings would look at to issue, if you were issuing rated bonds. All right. Required communications, then, this is that second booklet that you have that is the full teal cover, the reporting and insights document. Just a few highlights from that. The internal control material weakness found on page 6. This is the same as it has been for many years. Essentially, we, as your auditors, prepare the financial statements, help with some year-end journal entries, putting together that schedule of federal and state awards. So just notifying you of that again. That point is very consistent with other governments of this size and smaller. Essentially, you just don't have the manpower or the CPAs on staff to put together these financial statements. Some other required audit communications. The last couple pages of that report are the two-way communication regarding the 2023 audit. So for next year, goes over the nature, scope, timing of our audit. Does encourage you to reach out to us at any time in the year if you ever have concerns or questions, anything that you think would rise to the level of something we need to know about for the annual audit. And pages 7 through 10 have the audit communications regarding the 2022 audits, the one that we finished. And we comment on the corrected and uncorrected misstatements, the significant estimates. But the best thing to point out here on this slide is that we did not have any difficulties, disagreements, or consultations regarding this audit. So, everyone was very cooperative. We did not have any difficulties in completing it. So it's always a great result to report. And then on page 21, we do notify you of the new accounting standards coming down the pipe. The biggest one that will impact 2023 will be the subscription-based information technology agreements. Does mirror the lease standard that went into effect for 2022. But in this one, we'll have to look at any software or cloud-based agreements that the county may have, and anything that is long-term, so extends beyond 1 year, will have to be brought onto the books as an asset and a liability. And we'll work with Paul, the IT department. We have some tools and templates to provide to help through that implementation. So with that, that concludes what I have for prepared content. Here's my contact information along with Vanessa, who is the manager on the audit. And I just want to give a really big thank you to Paul, the county staff, even Sam, the Human Services Department, the Highway Department, Health, Land Management, and more. I mean, we bother a lot of people for the couple weeks that we're here, and then kind of continuing through the summer. So just really appreciate the responsiveness of everyone in cooperation to get through this process.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
Over the years, the standards change. And I guess I've never asked the question, who changes these standards?
Well, there's a few different standard setting bodies. So we have to follow auditing standards as one. And then there's the accounting standards that have to be followed by the county and management. So the GASB is one of those entities, the Government Auditing Standards Board. That's who's implementing kind of these new, the leases or these technology agreements, the pension stuff that had to be brought on a few years back. They are really the big standard setting body. And then the AICPA sets a lot of the auditing rules.
Okay, so a lot of it's coming from the federal government, probably.
Yeah.
A good chunk of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We're not imposing anything we don't have to.
Okay.
So
Bridget.
how long will it take you to get through that additional portion? Because obviously, if you're here for 2 weeks already, are you talking about just like another hour's worth of
For
work?
the new standard?
For the new standard?
It really depends. I will say the lease standard that went into effect for 22, really we didn't have much time into that, maybe a couple hours of just inquiring, getting some different questionnaires out. We did not find that the county had any sizable leases that needed to be disclosed. The healthcare center did have some that we brought in from that other audit report. But we did have some clients that it was, 20 to 30 hours of effort to implement those things. So it really depends on the agreements and what the county has, which is why we try to get the information early. We're here in December usually for preliminary audit fieldwork. So we would start the process then, start the information gathering so that we know if we do need to bring on, additional resources when it does come time in June to be here for the audit.
Any other questions? Very narrow, thank you.
Thank you.
Sounded good.
All right.
We'll go on to item C,
Thank you. I'm going to call you tomorrow.
Highway Quaid Bridge petitions.
I'll read the first one in its entirety, then I'll just go down to the bridge name and the municipality. To the Honorable County Board of Supervisors, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin. Ladies and gentlemen, whereas the bridge culvert known as the Cyril Sabota Lane Bridge, wholly located within the town of Arcadia in Section 3, Township 20 North, Range 9 West, on the Cyril Sabota Lane Road has been destroyed and that proper steps have been taken to have such bridge rebuilt or repaired. Whereas actual cost of rebuilding, repairing such bridge culvert is $19.70, and that the total valuation of said town of Arcadia, according to the last assessment as equalized by the County Board of Supervisors of Trumpealeau County, is more than $400,000. Now therefore, we, the undersigned supervisors of said town of Arcadia, do hereby petition your honorable body to appropriate the sum of $9.85 to aid in the construction of said bridge as provided by subsection 4 of Section 82.8 Wisconsin Statutes of 1923. Dated at Arcadia, Wisconsin, this 23rd day of August, 2023, and it's signed by the Town Board of Arcadia. The next one is also in the town of Arcadia, the Myers Valley Road Bridge. They're petitioning for $2,540.99. County share would be $1,270.49, signed by the Town Board of Arcadia. The next one is the Pica Road Bridge, also in the town of Arcadia. Total is $39,090.16. County share will be $19,545.08, signed by the Town Board of Arcadia. Again, in the town of Arcadia, the Rainy Valley Road Bridge, total $57,893.80. County share $28,946.90, signed by the Town Board of Arcadia. Also in the town of Arcadia, River Valley Road Bridge, total $4,672.45. County share $2,336.22, signed by the Town Board of Arcadia. In the town of Caledonia, they don't have a name of the bridge. I wonder if it's on this thing.
Cold Road.
Coat Road, yeah, okay. $12,602.85 is the total. County share would be $6,301.43, and it's signed by the Town Board of Caledonia. Town of Ettrick, I'd like wipe that out. This would be the Haggested, nope. Yep, Haggested Road. And the total is $114,291.58. County share $57,145.79, signed by the Town Board of Ettrick. Also in the town of Ettrick, on the Joe Cooley Road, total $75,644.61. County share $37,822.30, signed by the Town Board of Ettrick. Also in the town of nope, we're going to the town of Gale. They didn't do they did it wrong on the resolution, I see it now. But this is town of Gale, Corey Valley. Total is $8,744.72. County share is $4,372.36, signed by the Town Board of Gale. I'm gonna write that down right now so I don't mess it up here. Okay, the next one's the Cowell Road in the town of Hale. $14,144.81. County share $7,072.41, signed by the Town Board of Hale. Next one is in the town of Preston, Bradley Road. Total $17.38. County share $8.69, signed by the Town Board of Preston. And also in the town of Preston, Garden Valley. Total $19,741.94. County share $9,870.97. That's all of them.
You have
I
an
wonder if
error on the
somebody
Rainy
was-
Valley Road one. You read 4,672 and on the actuals it says 44,000.
That's River Valley.
Yeah, it's gotta be changed.
I wonder if I even did a River Valley.
Yeah, you did. You did two of them.
Let's see here. I did 2 River Valleys?
Yeah.
Hiking. River Valley
Rainy and River.
was
Right.
$4,672.
But on the book it says 44.
It says 44.
Ooh.
You just give them another 40,000. Just change that.
I think we probably should send this back to the Highway Committee because
Too many errors.
too many errors, yes. Because they didn't have that the Dop Road was in town of Gale.
Dop Road is in town of Gale too?
Dop Road is, yes. And did I say a Corey Valley?
Corey
Corey
you said-
Valley.
You said Corey Valley was, but I don't know
Are they
about
both
Dop Road.
town of Gale?
Let me just look at,
Stop ended up being minus.
Pardon?
Corey Valley is in town of Gale.
How about Dop Road?
Dop is in town of Gale.
That's Gale too?
I don't think I even read that one, did I?
No, you skipped it.
They didn't have, they don't even have all the petitions here. I think you should send this back.
Okay.
I have another question.
Sure.
In general on these, this cost, well, it can be an estimate or an actual cost, it's 50% either way.
These are all actual costs.
And so, is this incurred this year? Because like, just looking at, Joe Cooley Road, that project, I know the project physically was completed last year. How does that work for
Well, they have to
timing
spend
of
all the
when-
money first and then they.
So they might
petition
have just
for it.
not paid the bill.
Yeah, that's why
until-
some of those were
All
those
right.
little $19 or $17 things because it was
Okay,
finishing off
Thank you
that
for that
project.
clarification.
Yep.
That's money already spent by the town for reimbursement.
So.
But this has to go back, so somebody want to make a motion to send it back to Highway?
Make a motion that we send this back for revision to the Highway Committee.
Okay. Let's see, the chair and vice chair are here to make sure that happens. Okay.
And you guys signed the resolution too.
All, seeing as how there's no actual money spent until we send this back, this is just a voice vote for sending it back to Highway. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? That's carried. All right.
Now we should be on a roll here.
Then Paul will have to read it again.
I'll probably just,
Highlight
yeah.
it. Resolutions, Highway Committee.
No, environment and land use. We're up here now. 'Cause
Oh, you
just
read
said-
the red, you did that one.
No,
Okay.
that's what we're sending back.
Okay. Environmental Land Use Committee.
Whereas Trumpealeau County Department of Land Management is serving as the collaborator with Buffalo and Trempealeau Farmers Network in 2024. Whereas DATCAP requires the Buffalo Trempealeau Farmers Network to partner with a collaborator/fiscal manager. Whereas these grant monies will be used for producers to implement innovative water quality protection practices. And whereas all grant matching requirements will be paid for by the producer/members of the Buffalo Trempealeau Farmers Network. Now be it resolved that the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors does hereby approve applying for the producer-led watershed grant through the Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection, DATCAP, in the amount of $40,000 to be deposited into account 101.43595 and paid out of account 101.56107.403. Introduced by Environment and Land Use Committee, Kellen Nelson, Dave Larson, Stacy Klein, Andy Todd, Tony Munson.
Move to approve. Motion to approve by Mr.
Second.
Nelson, second by Mr. Larson. Let's see, we have the director here from Land Management. We'll have a few words on this.
Yeah, this is the first time being collaborator with the Farmers Network. It's very common for other county land management departments to be the collaborator. This is an outstanding group, a way to bring farmers in as part of the solution and not the problem. In the past, the Discovery Center and Pheasants Forever has been the collaborator. And because of changing things going on, Pheasants Forever can't do it anymore. So we're stepping up and filling that role. So we're really excited to be a part of that and be a partner and working with this very, very energetic group.
Okay, any questions at all? Mr. Emery?
I'm just curious, I guess, in our role as acting as a collaborator, is there a significant amount of staff time involved, and does anything come back to the county with that, or how much time does this take of our staff, and is that something we're compensated through for those grant monies?
We're not compensated for those grant monies, but we do have. It's not a ton of time, and so it's several hours a month on average. So it really kind of varies. We'll probably get a better feel of that as we do the transition into the next year. But it's not a significant amount of time, but it's a really important amount of time to work with this group.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Bridget.
Turn your mic on.
Does this group then, the Buffalo Trempealeau Farmers Network, are they the ones that determine how the grant money then will be spent?
Yeah, there is a grant proposal that we've worked with them on, and it's all laid out in this proposal. So there's a work plan. There's 6 identified goals and objectives that get very detailed into ag practices. But that's all part of the grant application that meets the DATCAP standards.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Sasha. Lori Severson. Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yeah.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
16-0.
Okay. Conservation aids the canoe kayak landing at Petrick Park.
Whereas the legislature of the state of Wisconsin enacted legislation providing for allocation to respective counties on an acreage basis for the county fish and game projects on the condition that there is a local match for the state allocation. Whereas Trumpealeau County desires to participate in county fish and game projects pursuant to provisions of Section 23.09 parentheses 12 of the Wisconsin statutes. And whereas the funds to be made available by the state for this project year are not likely to exceed $7,000, and a local source has made commitment to provide the required local match for the state funds. And whereas the funds will be used for installing a canoe kayak landing in the Trempealeau River at Petrick Park, located north of Arcadia in Section 15, Township 21 North, Range 9 West. Now, be it resolved that the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors does hereby accept the local matching funds and state funding for the project, and the funds are to be placed into account number 101.43581, Conservation Aids.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Nelson,
I'll-
second by Mr. Schreiner. Discussion?
This is a grant we've done every year, and different groups get it. A lot of times it's a conservation organization, a rod and gun club. Last year it was the Strum Rod and Gun Club, and this year it's our land management department. We with the master plan for Peach Park that was developed, one of the projects in there is to promote the outdoor recreation that we're promoting to encourage tourism in the county, and we have a need for an actual improved canoe kayak launch in the park, and this helps us go forward and build that in 2024.
Mr. Adams?
I can confer with our director on the PTAC committee. That is absolutely correct, as a member of that committee.
Any other comments? Hearing none, well, let's call the roll.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Lori Severson.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
16-0.
Audit Committee, membership claims.
Whereas the Audit Committee has audited the following claims and recommend that they be allowed as follows. John Austin, $1,269.65. Kevin Adams, $278.60. Robert Becker, $220.96. Ron Johnson, 0. Stacy Klein, $567.68. David Larson, $576.63. Dick Miller, $170.96. Kellen Nelson, $67.03. Jeannie Nutter, $405.02. David Orsh, $382.13. Emery Palmer, $100. Richard Seisha, $420.30. Dan Schreiner, $203.28. Lori Severson, $262.88. Andy Todd, $236.68. Bridget Turner, $341.92. Don Waldera, $349.15. Total per diems, $4,700. Total expenses, $1,152.80. Grand total, $5,852.87. Now be it resolved that the claims be allowed as shown, introduced by Audit Committee, John Austin, Stacy Klein, Richard Seisha.
Motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Turner, second by Mr. Larson. Any discussion at all? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Lori Severson.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh. John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
16-0.
Proud to announce that the committee, was it exec finance? No, it was an ad hoc committee for to find a corporate counsel. Oh, it was exec finance and
Was your committee, exec finance.
Exec
Yep.
finance committee. But anyway, we did find a great candidate, and I think I don't know if she's going to be live or. Oh, there she is. Anyways, Susan Fisher's currently working in Columbia County until next week, Monday. You're coming here?
That's correct. My first
Okay.
day is next Monday.
All right. Welcome aboard.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, but anyway, you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself for the benefit of the board here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me appear via Zoom. I am moving with my family tomorrow So our house is a little chaotic. The movers are coming right around noon. So thank you very much for, again, letting me appear through Zoom. I'm looking forward to meeting each one of you in person. To give you a background of myself, my husband and I are both from the area. I grew up in Onalaska. My husband's from Holman. I started my law practice in Arcadia, excuse me, in 2006. After practicing in the area of family law for a couple of years, I worked in a variety of different human services law types of fields. For the last nearly 8 years, I have been an assistant corporation counsel in Columbia County. When this opportunity came up and the opening to come back to Trempealeau, I was very excited about it. And I am looking forward to serving the citizens of Trempealeau County in the future. And if you have any questions or if you need to get a hold of me in the future, just let me know.
Well, you'll be here next month, hopefully. So anyway, let's.
I think she said Monday.
Monday, yeah, she'll be.
Monday.
Oh, it is, yeah, that is next month. That is
Welcome
next
aboard.
month.
It's next month, but it's a week from today.
Yeah,
only.
so-
I guess you're
Anyway,
right.
we do have to have
you're
a
right.
confirmation. This is just the exec finance committee that picked this, and we need a confirmation from this board, so. Motion made and seconded to approve. Do we need
Dan
a,
Schreiner and David Orch.
do we need a voice vote, or?
Yep, that's good enough for me.
Okay, voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
What happened, Audie?
I said aye.
Oh. Opposed? Hearing none. Carried. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Committee reports, executive finance, budget update.
Those
Anything
are the regular monthly reports to you, but I was going to comment to you about how, if you look at the sales tax, last year, we brought in 491,000 more than what we budgeted. And we're basically, I think, on schedule to even bring in more this year. So that's that one. And then the other one I think I was going to mention, the general fund balance that is new now because this is the new unassigned fund balance as of 1/1/23 was 7 million. And we have a balance in there right now of 5.2 million. So that was the main things I wanted to mention.
In addition to that, just for information purposes, our ad hoc committee met for the administrator, and at this point, we have 11 candidates?
11 candidates.
11 candidates, which I hope gets whittled down before, I hope it'll be whittled down before it gets here. But we're scheduled on the
Here, I was gonna throw my hat in the
October
ring.
9th, but actual
She got plenty.
18th is when we finalize it, right, or something like that?
Our next meeting to review candidates is October 9th.
Okay.
And then we will have tours with the final candidates and an opportunity for employees to meet and greet on our same day as our next board meeting, whichever that is in October.
I think it's 17th and 18th or something like 16th.
Oh, we were going to change it because county board is the 16th.
Yeah.
No.
I think it is the 16th.
Yeah, we're yes.
Oh,
It was meant to be
16th,
the
17th.
same.
19th, that
Oh,
kind of threw me there.
The 18th is this cap, and while we're on that subject, there's a cap meeting on the 8th. Stacy, did you get in your reserve?
Yep.
Did you register with WCA for the cap meeting?
When is it again?
It's on the 18th.
Isn't
I made a room reservation for you, so I hope it's.
Is that also when we're having the administrator
No,
stuff?
that's after.
Oh, okay.
That's
No,
why
I
I
didn't
think
make a
And
room
the
reservation.
16th and 17th is the administrator, and the 18th is cap meeting.
I'll get right on that.
Okay.
But the night of the 17th is when you'll be at the hotel in Madison.
Okay, and then also we have a U.S. Senator candidate in our midst who was also at the WCA meeting, and this is our first chance to do some political agenda, talk about the WCA meeting.
Oh, no, she's going to talk about the
This is-
WCA
yes.
conference.
Yeah, conference.
Yeah, this is, we're gonna stick, we're gonna
Campaign
stick,
even when you can't.
yeah, we're gonna stick to county boards, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a number of us that were down at the WCA annual conference, so it was, 10, yep, so John Austin and his wife, Paul, Bridget, Dave Larson and his wife, let's see, Jeannie Nutter was there, Kevin, Dawn, Lori, and Dick.
She did
Yep, and it's amazing because there's 800 participants.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we were used to the legislative conference where we all sat together, and then this, I think there was at least a couple people I never ever saw.
There were some I never saw.
Yeah, I was gonna say I never saw you. So the Sunday was a business meeting, so John was there representing our county, and then Monday, the beginning of the day was hearing from the leaders of the WCA, just some question and answer while they were on stage. I thought one of the really interesting takeaways when one of our past governors, Tommy Thompson, was up there, how he talked about the county board and how unique we are. You know, we obviously don't do this for the recognition or the money, and we're nonpartisan, so we're very focused on doing what's right for all of our communities, and it's just a unique place to be able to do that compared to when you get to the state and the federal level, of course, where it's bipartisan. So those are really good, and then the evening was nice as well with the rodeo theme. But what I liked the best were the workshops, and I think we all went to a variety of them, getting to know some of these topics on a more in-depth level, but then also getting to know some of the other county board supervisors. I'm guessing you guys are the same as me, where you got to speak with a lot of counties who have administrators and pick their brains about what it's like to have the administrator and the roles they take and how long they've been there, and what to look for in a good administrator. I think everyone I talked to said you can't steal ours, and that wasn't on the agenda. So met a lot of really great people that way. But then the workshops too. Some of these topics, I sat in on the solar farm one, or the wind energy, things like that. You hear just the variety of what's going on throughout the state, the different concerns of different counties, and it's nice that we had that solar farm study done. So we were a little bit of a leg up there in some ways, but we don't face like the wind turbines like some of the other areas of the county or the state. So getting to know some of those topics, and I think that helped us too. There was even at one point, Dawn and I turned to each other during one of the sessions like, oh, we should revisit, whatever from a couple months ago, because there's so much to learn for all of us, and depending on what committee you're on. So it's a good opportunity to just take in more information and then just be the best supervisors that we possibly can be. And I'm sure anybody else was there can speak to, we had the vendors, so we got a lot of good swag, and got to know just some of the different companies that work more closely with the counties and on a regular basis. But yeah, I mean, if there's anybody else that wants to throw something in.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to really thank Lori Severson. She sponsored, her and her company sponsored the first reception evening that was there. A couple of really cool retired Green Bay Packers were there. And not only did I go home with one shirt, but two, because I was the only one there.
Right, she was my big supporter, you guys.
It was a really nice, it was a really nice function, and we did have to answer questions for those. They put up a really nice presentation and asked questions about state statutes of campgrounds, things like that, and there was a couple of very good questions that stumped pretty much the whole audience, but they did a super job. Yeah. You did a super job, Lori. It was a fantastic, I say do it again next year.
The one high point to me was the keynote speaker at the luncheon.
He was good.
Jim Olson, he's a ex-CIA. Jim Olson, he's a ex-CIA. Him and his wife are both in the CIA, but you can't tell anybody what you do for a living. So one of the things I thought was cute, he's married, and his father, he was an attorney, but he was passed the bar. He had his law degree, but never used it because he got recruited into the CIA. and he couldn't tell anybody what he was doing. And then he met his wife in the CIA, and her father was also an attorney, and he knew that Jim had a law degree, and when you go out in the CIA, you got to take a disguised job. So maybe it was a bus driver, or truck driver, or whatever. But he would switch jobs for every assignment he had. It was a different job. So his father-in-law kept thinking, man, this guy can't even hold on a job. And he was worried about his daughter having something he can't support her. But it was kind of hilarious, too. He made it fun, but it's very interesting. He must have talked for a good 45 minutes or so. It was good. But anyway.
It was very worthwhile and very educational,
Yeah.
but fun at the same time. So,
Okay, number 10. Did you have any correspondence? I didn't.
Nope,
No.
none.
Like for a motion to pay mileage and per diem.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Seja, second by Mr. Larson. Call the roll.
Robert Becker,
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Helen Nelson,
Yes.
David. I found another mistake. David Larson.
Okay, yes.
You got on?
Nelson. I don't know. Whoever typed,
Wasn't me.
I know it wasn't you and it wasn't me, so. Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Lori Severson. Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller. Dave Orsh.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
16-0. And Mitch, it's every single one that starts with that.
All right, get out of there.
I'm gonna look for that now.
Okay,
Can I mention just one?
yes, go ahead.
On the county calendar, it lists the Board of Trustees for the Healthcare Center on Wednesday the 4th, but that's actually gonna be Wednesday the 11th.
Oh.
Didn't you?
I got that, I changed it on the other one online, but I got that email from Renee
Yeah.
after I mailed those.
Okay, yep.
After I printed all those and that wasn't good.
Same time, just down.
Yep, just a week
Just-
later.
I did on mine, I circled it and wrote the next Wednesday.
Okay. Next meeting scheduled for October 16th at 7 PM. And that's when we should have our final candidate picked. Do we have it picked by that time or no?
They won't be selected.
No. But they'll all, we should have like 5 or so, I'm thinking. Yeah, whittle down to like 5 or
Go
That's,
for the 11th?
and it's nice to be able to whittle down. That's unbelievable, 11, so that's good. Yeah,
November 14th at 10 a.m., is that correct?
That's our annual meeting. That's when the budget is done.
That's a Monday morning?
It's a Tuesday.
Ooh, that's really throwing me off.
It's by statute. It's the first Tuesday after the second Monday is how it's worded in the Wisconsin statutes. So,
Okay.
yep, first Tuesday after the second Monday.
and then the audit committee knows we meet Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week.
Exact finance.
Exec finance, or budget meeting.
Yeah, whoever's on audit, don't forget.
Yeah, Thursday we got audit.
Your schedule now.
I think it's Ms. Severson,
Yeah, who's on audit?
Severson
Okay, then
and,
I'm not gonna email you.
Well,
oh, and Todd?
is it you two
Yeah, Severson.
this
and
week,
Todd.
Thursday?
Yeah,
Is it at what time, 9?
9.
9.
Okay.
Yeah, who's on this week? Me and who else?
Have you done 2?
You did 2, didn't you?
I'm on this
If he's on
Thursday.
this.
Oh, then it's you and Lori, it's not Andy.
Yeah, we have to get it done before, budget hearing.
You wanna meet like a half an hour earlier
Well,
or
it's at
something?
8:30 and this is the second one of the month. It'll be done in an hour.
Well, this was gonna be.
This is, the second is,
8:30 okay with you? On
Thursday?
It's coming Thursday.
he already adjourned, didn't he?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know, did he?
I think he did.
8:30 work?
So it's.
Even
it's-
8:45, even 8:40.
Okay, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
Richard and Lori this time, in the
Okay.
first, in October,
Yeah, I got it. 9.
9. It should be on that calendar that you got tonight. If you notice, you did get a board call tonight and a calendar, so I'm not mailing it out to you. We saved some postage.
Save some money.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn this meeting at 8:20.